Welcome to In Moderation,
the show where we give you a moderate dose of info, sarcasm, and we already know we're not approved.
Hey everybody, I'm introducing the podcast tonight because I remember what it is since last week was... we recorded it last night, but we don't tell the listeners that, so that's fine. Last week was episode 50, so I know it's 51. Check me out,
yes,
knowing
Rob
what number.
Stayed up until 6 a.m. to make sure the episode got out on time, and then woke up with a fever and a sore throat because lack of sleep ruins your systems,
everything.
People.
I mean, what did we yell about? Not last week, last night, just for us two. Lack of sleep will kill you. Anyway,
get your sleep.
Get your sleep. And then we have somebody else on tonight, which I'm so excited for because I get asked on this topic so much. Mary, why don't you introduce yourself first here before we get into it, before I get all yelly?
Yeah, so I'm Ellen Phipps. I'm a registered dietitian as well, and I specialize in diabetes of all types. I kind of exist in the social media and blogging space. So I kind of make it my goal to take all the confusing research, complicated stuff, and put it out there in a relevant and accessible way for people living with or impacted by any form of diabetes.
And that is exactly what we're looking for here. Before we start recording, I said we need the basics. We need the just fundamentals here. So I think just right off the bat, we need to what diabetes? What? How? Who? These sort of questions. What?
How? Who? When? Why?
Why? Yeah, diabetes. Why? Help us out with this.
We could do multiple episodes on that, but so I myself have type 1. I've had it since I was 5 years old. That kind of crafted my interest in this space, but there's a lot of, like, growing up, I saw there's a lot of division in the diabetes community as a whole. You've got like type 1, you've got type 2, and kind of this idea that, like, you don't want to be associated with the other kind of diabetes. And as I was growing up and getting into my education and professional career, started realizing, like, we have so much in common, especially when it comes to nutrition. The end goal is the same for everybody,
right,
regardless of the type of diabetes you have, is that you're eating, or you want to eat in such a way that we're keeping blood sugars in range as often as possible, while also living a happy and healthy, mentally, physically, emotionally life. And kind of one of my main philosophies, the way I teach people to do that, whether you have type 1 or type 2 or gestational or something else, is not looking at what you can and can't eat, like what a lot of people sometimes unfortunately hear when they go to the physician or whoever, but rather, how do you take the foods you love, the foods that comfort you, the foods you know, and how do you make them work for you and not the other way around? Because it's not a one-size-fits-all, black and white kind of thing. We all know, you guys especially, that nutrition has nuance. And so looking at kind of a lot of those traditional foods like pasta, bread, rice, potatoes, that it's like people automatically assume they can't have. And it's like, well, no, what are we going to do to enjoy those? And so my main message is fat, fiber, and protein. These are kind of our biggest nutritional tools in balancing blood sugar or promoting stable blood sugars after you eat.
Okay. Well, here, let me hit you off right off the bat here with a question, because I got asked this today on my video about sugar, which, boy, howdy, that has like 5,000 comments on it, and everyone is agreeing and not disagreeing at all. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Then I got a comment from someone saying that, let me just make sure I get this right here. Hold on a second. I'm trying to remember it exactly. The reason we have diabetes is because we eat sugar and then our bodies forget how to break down fats into sugar. Now, on a scale of 9 to 10, how accurate is this?
I think we're going about -2 there. That's fun. Oh.
That's not the scale. You have to say 9 because
that
it's
just hurt my brain.
Wow.
I know. I was reading. I kind of stared at this comment for a while, and I was just like, "Is this where we're at? Like, what is going? Like, people? This idea that sugar you eat. I don't know. Let's say some Juji fruit because it's my favorite. They have the licorice in there. I know everyone else hates it, but I like it. Leave it in there. Dots, you got rid of it and made it all crows in a box. No, that's not cool. Leave it in there. Anyway, they get this idea that you eat some sugar and then you immediately develop diabetes. Can you dispel this a little bit with sugar and diabetes?
Well, so a lot of this misinformation stems from a central idea that people assume because with diabetes, your ability to metabolize carbohydrate and sugar, glucose, whatever you want to say, because that is impacted, they assume that that is what caused it. And we know that there are, in both cases, and I'm going to generalize here to type 1 and type 2, but there, in both cases, it's a multifactorial diagnosis, we call it. So there's multiple things that play into it. There, for the most part, there isn't one thing you can pinpoint that caused a diagnosis. There's a whole host of things, many of which we don't have any control over. And the end result is your body's ability to process carbohydrate is impacted or taken away essentially without outside intervention, but not necessarily like that caused it. That's kind of where the disconnect happens, I think.
Right. So like what do we have? What are some of the causes of diabetes? Can we just, I mean, I'm assuming that would be like a whole podcast of just like, we could go through that, but like maybe in general, what are some things that can lead?
I assume the leading cause of diabetes is big pharma.
Oh, of course, 100%, right?
That's usually the easiest one. And then also buy my greens powder.
I think the one a lot of people like know but don't like to hear is your genetics on both sides. Like we're kind of born with what we're born with, and some people are more susceptible and some people are going to develop it and some people are not. And then you've got, environment factors that play in, activity levels, your predisposition to certain types of foods, your your past history, exposure to viruses. You can go as far back as to like, what were your mother's vitamin D and magnesium and these levels happening while you were in utero, kind of thing. Like there's all these things that play into it that for someone to just say that like you ate too much sugar, that gave you diabetes. I mean,
basically internet's like, you be fat and you ate sugar, now you have diabetes and it's your fault. That's kind of seems to be the general consensus from the chads on the internet.
I mean, we know if that was true, every person over X body weight would be walking around with diabetes, and that's just not true.
Right, because there's people that are that have a lot of excess body fat and fine blood sugars, not diabetic, not pre-diabetic, anything. So and then you kind of brought that up. So that's something that I saw a lot of people were kind of surprised by when I talked about it. Like this would be more for type 2 diabetes, but activity level and especially like having muscle mass can help you be more sensitive to insulin. So if this is correct, right, like if you maybe build some more muscle and you're more active, it might decrease your chance of developing type 2 diabetes.
Increased muscle mass increases what we call your insulin sensitivity, and so it means that the insulin that your body's able to produce, assuming you don't have type 1, is able to use it more efficiently, which promotes more stable blood sugars, and then it's kind of a cyclical effect. But we even see that in people with type 1 as well, that their insulin needs go down. They're less what we call brittle in their blood sugars. Like you tend to see more stable, I'm using my hands like people can see me, like fluid blood sugars rather than like these rapid ups and downs, which are what we want to avoid, kind of thing.
Right. So yes, that's why people, building muscle, like going to the gym, like I know you want to just do that for like fat loss and everything. That's great. But like, there's a lot of other benefits, the ones that you might not even know about. Yeah. So please get your activity in.
Here's the real question. Yeah. If sugar's so bad, why can't we just stop having sugar in our bloodstream? That would solve everything.
And then we'd die. So that's fun.
We'd die. I know. Oh boy.
And I think all it takes is one person to experience like what a low blood sugar feels like. If you've truly ever experienced that, I think you realize just how scary it is, the thought of not having sugar in your bloodstream. I don't know where this conception came from, but this idea that everything you eat turns to sugar, or if you eat white bread, it turns to sugar, kind of thing. It's like, well, that's okay. It's keeping you alive. It's feeding your brain. That's what's helping. So just kind of dispelling some of those myths are always fun in the world of Instagram and TikTok.
So let me ask, I just, because I see it all the time, I'll do a video on something and, I'll get someone say, hey, I'm diabetic, I can't have carbs. What would you recommend for me? I've been told I can't have carbs. all the time, like constantly. And help me out here just a little bit.
Yeah.
Helping people realize if you have diabetes, you can eat carbohydrates.
You actually, my stance, it's more about what we're pairing those carbohydrates with rather than like what the carbohydrates are themselves. Because sure, if you go eat a piece of white bread by itself, it's going to raise your blood sugar rapidly, probably more than you want and quicker than you want. But most people aren't just going to eat the white bread by itself. You're going to put some sort of fat source on it. You're going to eat it alongside some eggs. You're going to combine it with what I mentioned earlier, fat, fiber, and protein, which is going to slow down the carbohydrate digestion, which is what we want. That's the goal. Okay. The slower the digestion happens to a certain point, we get a more steady absorption of glucose or carbohydrate, which promotes stable blood sugars. So the example I like to use is the white bread by itself versus, a piece of white bread or even a whole grain piece of bread with a little bit of avocado, egg, and maybe a little bit of oil on top. Those are drastically different situations, even though you're starting with the same base piece of bread, on how rapidly your blood sugar is going to go up and how those, say, 15, 20 grams of carb are going to have an impact.
Right. So before we get, because we'll definitely, I kind of want to make the bulk of that, just like what to do for people who are, are dealing with diabetes, but just kind of because diabetes generally, I know, just basically, is there a difference for what people should do who are pre-diabetic versus actually in the diabetes range? Is there because I get people saying I just barely am in the pre-diabetic range. Is something I do differently, or is it all just kind of the general same advice?
I think I like to think of diabetes type 2 and pre-diabetes on like a continuum, on a timeline. It's a progressive disease. And you're kind of existing on this timeline. Some people will describe this as like, how bad is your diabetes? I'm using air quotes here.
So kind of like how Marvel movies keep getting worse.
Maybe, yeah.
Exactly the same.
That's not my area of expertise, but we can go with that. But this continuum exists. And when you're in the pre-diabetes stage, for the most part, this is where people, with the right interventions, have the ability to kind of quote unquote reverse diabetes, to go back to a state where they're increasing insulin sensitivity, insulin production is working the way it should. This is where changes, like lifestyle changes, can potentially have the most impact. As you get further into type 2, the ability to kind of reverse it is harder. And it's more of, this is now your treatment. You're not getting rid of diabetes ever. It's in remission. You're treating it by eating a certain kind of way. But the sooner we catch it in that process, the more effective changing the way you eat, changing your activity habits, changing your sleep habits, how you handle stress, can have an impact. And so someone with prediabetes, I don't need them micro counting carbohydrates. I don't need them measuring out everything they're eating. I need them paying attention to the bigger picture and making sure we're getting fiber and protein at every meal, making sure that we're prioritizing moderate carbohydrate and protein snacks. Whereas someone who's further along in the process, we are going to dive a little bit further into carbohydrate counting, knowing how to look at portions, and kind of micro managing, if that makes sense.
Okay. So, yeah, this would be kind of interesting. I'd love to go down this line. All right. So let's say somebody has just got back from their doctor and they got diagnosed with pre-diabetes. They're in that range. Okay. And they're like, oh, man, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to be better. I want to not be worse. So can you give us just what are some first steps that they would do in order to help?
So nutritionally, I would say, okay, let's look at what you're doing throughout the day. We don't want to be skipping meals because we want a stable supply of carbohydrate throughout the day. And we don't want to eat carbohydrates by themselves. That's the bare bones where you start, is we're not.
Let's say it's me. Okay, I just woke up and every morning I have Reese's Puff cereal because it's my favorite. And I have that with 0% fat milk.
Okay.
What should I keep doing that, or maybe I should try something else?
So there are some things we can change there. But and here's where I come in of okay, if that is what brings you joy and you get to start your morning with that, where can I meet you where you're at? So let's look at what you're eating. Can we cut that down by a half cup, depending on how much you're eating, by a cup? And then can we add a protein source, like a Greek yogurt, one of those ultra filtered, not Chobani,
The Fairlife milks, man. Because Neptune brands, we just kind of do whatever, but like whatever high protein milk, yes.
Or like to the cereal, but then also like like an Oikos or a Ratio or one of those newer yogurts that's higher in protein, or even just plain Greek yogurt.
Have you tried the Ratios? What do you think, Mary? Have you tried the Ratios yet? People say
full disclosure, I have worked with them in the past. However, I pay my own cash money for them every week. The coconut is to die for. That's my favorite.
It's good. Isn't it like 25 grams of protein or something per like little cup?
I don't get that one. I get the one that's like 15 grams. Okay. That one's a little powdery. I don't like the 25 gram one.
Whenever you get to whenever you get up into like the 30s, you're kind of asking for it to not taste so great. Like I like the late fits that are like 12 grams of protein. They're small, 80 calories. But when they're like 72 grams of protein and only like 100 calories. I'm like that one, not possible. Two, like it's not going to taste good.
No, but I forget what they're calling them now. They used to call them keto, but they moved away from that. I think it's called Trio now or something. I don't know. They like rebranded it, but the coconut one's my favorite.
They'll brand to whatever's new and hip, right? That's in like, keto's in. We'll just call it that.
But yeah, so looking at how we can, because it's a high refined sugar item, like how we can decrease the portion size of that, but then add in like a fiber and a protein source. Can we put some berries with it? Because even though those have carbohydrate, those are kind of our higher fiber fruits. Can you add half of a pear, like something like that, that would kind of introduce those nutrients?
Yeah.
Can we yell at Kellogg's to make a Reese's mini wheat?
Oh.
Reese's mini wheat. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared of that. This sounds like a Frankenstein's monster that I'm not appreciating right now. Mini wheats. Hey, listen. Mini wheats have 6 grams of fiber per serving.
Yeah. Okay. They're one of the more high fiber.
12 grams of sugar.
That
6 grams of fiber.
Husk.
Right. That are, some of those ones. I've tried the Premier Protein. Now, people say it tastes like chocolate glass, which is true, but I kind of like this chocolate glass that I've been eating. It's very crunchy. But listen, people here, okay, you let it sit in the milk. The longer you let it sit in, the less crunchy it is. You can decide
so make
the
your breakfast
level
the night before.
Well, okay. Well, you don't want soup. But
maybe you do want soup.
Okay, soup cereal. I don't think Kellogg's is going to be coming out with that anytime soon. But you can decide the crunchiness level of your cereal. So yes, don't restrict. Add in something for breakfast, like other thing. What eggs? Is the classic example.
You can do any sort of like meat-based protein if you prefer that. But just kind of not eating those carbohydrates, especially simple carbohydrates by themselves.
How much should we be worried about like saturated fat? Like, can you give us a little? I know like that you could go into like saturated fat, diabetes, like a lot, but like maybe can you give me like a little overview here?
Yeah, I mean, okay, the general arching umbrella is yes, high amounts of saturated fat are associated with heart disease and things like this. If you have existing diabetes, you're already predisposed to heart disease because of the impact of high blood sugar on your blood vessels and stuff. I do think it's sometimes a little bit overhyped. I do like to utilize fat in certain places to help slow down digestion. Obviously, plant-based fat, but some amount of saturated fat is fine. But we want to be careful we're not going over whatever threshold because of maybe other diagnoses or if you have high blood pressure or stuff like that. But like if you're referencing like some of these coconut yogurts, like things like that, I'm not as worried about that. Or if the saturated fat is coming along with a fiber source, like oatmeal or something like that, because we know that can kind of decrease the absorption of some of the cholesterol and things like that. But it is something that you want to be mindful of and not. That's why like a lot of us aren't out here recommending the keto diet because it's
it was a little while ago. I got my blood levels checked, and the woman was like, after this keto diet took off, we've seen cholesterol levels just skyrocket. Like it's just been crazy because nobody does like a Mediterranean keto, at least not here in Ohio where I am. That's for damn sure. So like, I think when it comes to saturated fat, like, oh yeah, coconut yogurts, this and that, but like, I think a lot of people will be like, oh, I need to lower my carbs, so I'm just gonna have more sausage for breakfast, and then I'm gonna have
more butter in my coffee,
more butter, and more like ground beef, like 80-20, like a fattier beef and that sort of thing. And that's where you maybe just like don't go crazy with that.
What was that? There was a study that came out recently about like heme iron, like high heme iron meats linked to an increased risk of type 2 diabetes. But one of the things in the study is they didn't differentiate between what types of red meat. Like, are we talking about like a brisket, or are we talking about like lean ground beef kind of thing? So I think it's just using common sense and like going with those leaner cuts of meat and things when you're doing that. But it is something to be mindful of, though it's not, I think, as like nitpicky and counting grams as we would be with like carbohydrates or something like that.
You don't have to. None of us here, we don't even get down to the nitty gritty ever. So when you're listening, just, don't go crazy with the hot dogs and the bacon and stuff. Okay. So like, it's fine. It's fine. I'm telling you.
Unless it's Canadian bacon. Support the Canadian economy, because we're paying $10 for a soda.
Oh boy, it's crazy. But like, I'm telling you, those like plant-based deli slices, I like those. I've been making sandwiches with those. They're actually pretty good. You don't like those?
I can't do those. I take that back. I tried one recently. Meaty, MEATI. The chicken one was really good. They had a chicken one.
I mean, they're making like they're in the lab there, they're like, okay, wheat gluten and this and that, and putting things together. I don't know. I kind of like Black Forest ham. Anyway, so yeah, just trying to get more, because as you were saying, fat slow down digestion, fiber slows down digestion, right? And protein generally delays gastric emptying, slows down digestion. So these are the three things that you want to add in.
You know what else slows down your digestion? Taking the time to chew your food.
Yeah, let's just,
and talk at the table and socialize and all those fun things.
And
I think
all of it put together, because what's happening is if you eat refined carbohydrates by themselves, if you have some level of insulin resistance or existing diabetes, whether it's insulin produced by your pancreas, endogenous insulin, or insulin you're injecting, it can't get there in time. It can't keep up to prevent a rapid rise in blood sugar. Whereas if we have these other nutrients in place, or we're taking our time eating, it's a slower absorption of glucose, which allows the insulin to kind of keep up. And I compare it to like, we've got the loop-de-loop big roller coaster, or we've got the kiddie coaster, and we want the kiddie coaster when it comes to blood sugars.
I have heard from, your functional medicine people on the TikToks that apple cider vinegar will solve everything. And I'm assuming this is true, but I want to know how true apple cider vinegar solving diabetes is.
Oh, we're probably thinking of the same person. I mean, there is some data to show that whether it's, there's compounds in apple cider vinegar that may help lessen the glycemic impact, essentially flattening the curve after you eat. Is it a replacement for insulin? Absolutely not. Is it going to solve all your problems and you can take apple cider vinegar and eat a donut and not have a spike in your blood sugar? No. But it's just kind of one of those tools that maybe combined with some other stuff might work for some people, but certainly not for everyone.
Maybe we're using it wrong. Maybe we need to inject it.
If you want to, go ahead and try that.
It's not urine here. Calm down. So, okay. Now, Unicity. I don't know if you've never ever heard of them, but they're, oh boy, they're a group of people. They're basically.
They are certainly a group of people. Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to make too many claims because, we don't want to get sued. But they have this Unicity, yes, they have a special fiber powder. Now, does it cost like $200 a month for basically just psyllium husk or guar gums? It's not psyllium husk. It's more like guar gum and xanthan gum.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of different gums. And, it's all these locust bean gum and then like vitamins. Now, it's all pretty much, nonsense, and it's so expensive, and boy, you can make money selling it. But are you looking it up?
Like $219.
It's $200 a month for fiber packets
for guar gum. Yeah,
for basically guar. Like you could just buy guar gum. Like I have guar gum, just like I bought for like different recipes. Yeah, it's like $8 for like pounds of it. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean in America maybe it's probably closer to $100. In Canada,
Listen,
for
we
a
don't
kilogram.
Be quiet about your monopoly money. So, but I do want to say though, like, could it be beneficial though for someone who has either pre-diabetes or diabetes to maybe have like some kind of fiber supplement, a Benefiber? Let's say it's like one of those little Benefiber, like, packets or whatever. They put it in their water, they drink that, and they have their meal. Could that be potentially beneficial?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, do I want you getting your fiber from food sources over supplements? Absolutely, because it's going to come along with other nutrients and things like that. But it absolutely can help. And something like that, obviously you want to check with your doctor before you start any supplements.
Right.
But if you've been given the okay, it's a very low risk in terms of let's see if this could help kind of thing. So, I mean, I've lots of people use those, and if you can find one like soluble fiber, though all types of fiber are going to slow down digestion. We know there's a lot of data to support soluble fiber in particular, helping kind of promotes lower blood sugar levels, healthy blood sugar levels, but that can absolutely be a solution for some people.
What's amazing? India has really been holding out on us.
India.
What is?
I can't even tell what it is.
I don't know if I'm saying this right. Moong dal.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's moong dal.
That stuff's great. Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff's amazing. I mean, this stuff tastes like Pringles. This brand.
I can't see what it is.
They make it from. So is it like crisps or something like that?
It's moong lentils, and they're just I guess it's mung bean, and it's just little dried mung beans.
It's not just like mung beans. Oh, it is dried, so they dried so is it like the dry roasted edamame but mung beans?
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's got freaking 6 grams of fiber, 11 grams of protein for a fourth of a cup.
Oh wow.
I'm telling you, I love those dry roasted. Have you tried the dry roasted edamame, Mary? There's Only Bean makes them. They're so good.
I don't think I've had those.
You got to try. They have a bunch of different flavors. Oh,
I'm trying to think the ones I tried. Bada Bean, is that a brand? Bada Bean.
I'm not sure, but and then now they make pasta. They make Only Bean pasta. It's edamame pasta. It's packed with protein and it's packed with fiber. I just ordered some. I'm gonna try it because I haven't tried this brand yet. I've had other edamame pasta, but I haven't had this one. So that's a great option. You get protein and fiber.
Absolutely.
Yeah, however you can add protein and fiber in. I just made some these little wraps. I sprouted mung beans and I blended up with chilies and ginger, and I made like a little pancake type thing. I put potatoes in it and cheese. It was really good.
Sounds good.
It was really good. So good. But so yeah, help out people with with carbohydrate sources. What are some? Because a lot of people just don't know. Give us some decent carbohydrate sources for people who are dealing with insulin resistance.
Right. So again, prioritizing those carbohydrate sources that have fiber and protein. So we're looking for whole grains, though it doesn't have to always be whole grains. I do think there's a little bit of a hyperfixation there.
I know oats is a whole grain. That's one.
I do love oats. That's like my go-to combo for baking. But oats, quinoa, whole grain bread, looking at different, I'm blanking, you did
I've been liking farro. Have you ever tried farro?
Yeah, I have celiac, so I can't.
Oh, yeah, it's wheat, it's gluten.
But
it is
different, looking at buckwheat, things like that. But also remembering too, rice is the ultimate example. I don't like brown rice. I told myself for years that I liked it, but I don't. And I love white rice, and
I think most people tell themselves they like brown rice because they're trying to be healthy.
And not to even mention the cultural importance across the globe, but you can eat white rice and add your fiber and protein sources to it. And so it's more about the bigger picture of what.
Unless you're a Dr. Sebi follower, in which case you have to eat black rice.
Please don't bring in Dr. Sebi. I can't. I get his fault. It's just the weirdest group of people. I'm just gonna say people. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Trust me on that. But rice. I think sushi is a great example, right? You get protein. And you get protein, fiber, fats, right? You have your
sushi where you have to just be more mindful is sushi rice has sugar added to it. And so it's
yes.
not off limits, but it's just something to be mindful of, that the carbohydrate count is going to be different than regular rice. But yeah, we're adding vegetables, we're adding fish, we're adding seaweed, we're adding all these things that kind of help counterbalance that, and yeah, make it not just white rice.
Okay, so we got your whole grains. Kind of just pick the ones that you like. What else? Oh, nuts and seeds. Like, nuts and seeds are amazing for everybody, but I feel like that's got to be especially good for people who are dealing with insulin resistance, right? So you got fiber, you got protein, you got fats. It's like the three things in there.
Everything
already.
It's everything. Kind of adjacent to that, legumes, beans. Beans are like my diabetes superfood.
They're so
beans,
I bring up beans,
the magical fruit. The more you eat, the better your blood sugar is going to thank you.
Your blood sugar is. I bring up beans. People are like, no, it's carbs. I have diabetes. I'm like, but no,
but
like
it's 8 grams of protein and half a cup and 8 grams of fiber. But I'm going to get a little nerdy here, but if you like dig down into like some of the studies about beans, I'm going to make this really simple to understand. Don't worry. But there's there's studies that show that like you can eat beans at a meal and you get the benefit right then for that meal of like less blood sugar spike right after. But the blood sugar benefit extends to even the next meal you eat and potentially even the next morning. It's
beans have supernatural powers.
It's so fascinating to me. And like, I know as like dietitians, we're not supposed to use the word like superfood because it has no meaning, but like, they are truly a superfood in my book. Like, so many.
If there were superfoods, beans would be number 1s, 2, and 3s.
100%.
I love, because they're so cheap, and people always say how expensive eating healthy is. I'm just like, beans are amazing. They're so affordable, and it doesn't matter which ones. People always ask me like, oh, which one? I don't like black beans. Cool. Kidney beans or navy beans or cannellini beans or whatever beans. I don't care. Butter beans. I don't like those. I don't know why people like butter beans. I don't like butter beans. I mean, I'm a bean person, but I still have like my limits, like lima beans. No, thank you. I will pass. But give me a good black bean.
No.
So yes,
give me a good edamame.
So yeah, like lentils also would be in the legumes. Like I love lentil dolls. Like red lentils are amazing. Get the red lentils. They cook faster. Yeah. They're like 10, 15 minutes. So you put them in, broth. Cook them in broth instead of water. It makes it taste better. Okay. Yeah. And then, you can add whatever you make, curries or whatever you want to make.
And make sure that you gradually increase the amount. Don't suddenly give yourself a ton of fiber stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm assuming most vegetables are good. Like, obviously your non-starchy vegetables are going to be great. What about your more starchy vegetables? Yeah. What about your potato? What about your sweet potato?
Can we talk about resistant starch? That's my fun food science fact.
Yes, let's talk about resistant starch. That's good. I know you freeze things. You have to freeze things so you get more resistant starch. That's the one I know.
So, yes, like non-starchy vegetables kind of get pushed in traditional diabetes education, but you can absolutely still have potatoes. You can absolutely still have sweet potatoes and corn and all the things, particularly for things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and we're going to go back into our starches for a second, pasta, rice, bread. When we cook these things, we'll use potatoes as an example, they have a high amount of resistant starch when they're raw.
And what does resistant starch do?
So resistant starch is exactly like it sounds. The body treats it like fiber. It is starch that is resistant to digestion. And so it takes longer for your body to process it. Problem is when you cook a potato or a sweet potato, that some of that resistant starch, a good chunk of it, gets converted to traditional starch, which is very easy for our bodies to digest.
So only eat raw potatoes.
No, you gotta let me finish.
Don't do that.
Don't
eat raw potatoes.
And so the same thing is happening with like rice and pasta and bread and these things. But we know that when you, say you boil some potatoes, you cool them all the way down, and not just like room temp, like in the fridge, minimum like 4 to 6 hours, preferably overnight or freezing, like you said.
Okay.
That starch goes back to resistant starch. And it stays that way, even if you reheat it. There's even some data to show that reheating increases resistant starch even more. And so
what? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Potato salad, pasta salad, leftovers, all these things it's really like, and I this is clearly anecdotal, but even in myself, notice a difference in if I'm looking at my CGM graph, if I eat like rice or potatoes like the day they're cooked versus if they've been in the fridge overnight. and I've reheated them. There's all these.
So I think potato salad, like you said, is a good one because like you could add like mayo and like egg, or I don't like egg potato salad, but whatever. If you liked it, then you could add it, and all these other things will help
broccoli and onions and increase the fiber content a little bit and get some micronutrients happening and things like that. But there's all resistant starches I like to talk about because it's one of those things to show that like there are all sorts of different tools in our diabetes toolbox that we can use to allow us to eat the foods we love. Like we're not just relegated to this black and white list of here's what you can eat and here's what you can't eat. There's all sorts of things.
What about the squashes? Do they have resistant starch? I honestly don't know. Like a butternut squash? Like what's the
like a butt squash?
Butt squash is different. Butt squash is what you go to a different site for that.
I would think in theory, yes. I have never looked into that because there's not a whole lot of data on this. In theory, yes, they should because they're very similar to like a sweet potato and things like that. But
let me tell you, get an acorn squash, cut in half, olive oil, roast it, and then you just eat it out of the I don't know, the skin or whatever it is. Like you can add stuff inside there. It's super easy. That in the fall, oh man, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I'm a spaghetti squash fan. That's my go-to.
Spaghetti squash. I just got given that to me from our neighbor who grew it in her garden. She's
fun.
like, "Here you go." I was like, "Ooh, that's nice." Yeah.
Like
that. Still got the spiky thing on top. I'm like, "Ooh, don't touch that." But yeah, you cut that, you roast it, you cut it, and then you take a fork and you scrape it, and it becomes like these spaghetti strands. That's why it's called spaghetti squash. Yeah. And so like you could mix that in with your pasta, right? So you can still have your pasta, but add some spaghetti pasta, squash pasta.
You could.
Then,
I like it just with regular I'll do like a meat sauce with like onion and lean ground beef and marinara, and then mix it up with your spaghetti squash. It's delicious.
There you go. Okay. What about these? Okay, I just saw Dr. Ids recently do a video. What about these for diabetics?
I love dates get promoted a lot because they're quote unquote no added sugar. Like they are no added sugar. I shouldn't say it that way.
But there is 26 grams of sugar per serving.
They do have fiber. They have other micronutrients that contribute to stable blood sugars, but it is a high amount of sugar. That's just the reality. And so they are one of those things that can absolutely still be enjoyed. But let's do it in like an energy ball situation where you've also got a bunch of nuts in there that have fat and protein. It is not something like I remember when I was pregnant with both of my daughters, people would be like, you need to eat dates. It'll help you feel better. It'll help you because that's what they say to pregnant women. And I was like, absolutely, I cannot do this. I'm like at the peak of insulin resistance in third trimester, and dates are not going to be my friend right now. Yeah. So there's
at least you could put like peanut butter or chocolate in it as well. Maybe like that could at least help.
We actually have, my second cookbook I wrote is all about, it's the Easy Diabetes Desserts cookbook. And I have a recipe for that in there where we kind of add different toppings and use the dates, but adding some stuff to them so they're not just the date.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna lie, I ate like 20 of them last night, and that's like 100 and something grams of sugar. Like I was just eating them like popcorn. They're so good. I couldn't help myself. But anyway,
all I'm hearing is that my trail mix is good.
The trail mix. There you go. Okay, what about fruit though? Because this is one of those things where I bring up fruit. People like I had diabetes. I can't eat fruit. Yeah. Like I'm pretty. Give us the lowdown.
Again, it comes down to I absolutely want you eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. Research shows that consistent consumption of a bunch of different types over time promotes lower blood sugar levels. Where people get scared is in the moment because, X fruit has this much sugar in it. Well, it also has fiber. It also has an abundance of micronutrients. It's also a high water food, so it's keeping us hydrated. And again, don't go eat a bowl of watermelon by itself. Have it as part of a meal. Kind of just pairing these foods with different things rather than eating them on their own. Our higher fiber fruits are going to tend to be things like berries, pears, avocados, things like that. But no fruits are off limits. It's some people might be more susceptible to blood sugar spikes from certain ones rather than others, but that's.
So like the tropical fruits like banana, mango, pineapple, like these ones maybe be a little bit more careful with? Or
just be mindful of how it impacts your blood sugars. Have some cheese with it. Put some peanut butter on it. Have half of one instead of a whole one.
Yeah.
Eat it with a meal rather than by itself.
Yeah. Because I want people to fear fruit as little as possible because boy howdy, there's already enough people trying to fearmonger fruit. Like You know all you guys, you know the people that are unhealthy because they eat too much fruit, right? Like, you know, those people. We've all met those people that are just so unhealthy because they eat too much fruit. We're like, you gotta stop. You gotta stop. You've got an empty bushel of bananas or whatever. I don't know what it is. A bushel. I don't know what the thing of bananas. Like, it's fruit. Please enjoy it. What other? Okay, so then we did those, and then kind of dairy. So I'm assuming, like, if you're doing dairy, would it be more beneficial to do like a full fat dairy for someone with insulin resistance because it has the fats to help slow down digestion? Non-fat, 2%.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I'm going to say yes. The other caveat there to consider is, do we have existing heart disease things that we need to pay attention to that saturated fat component? But generally speaking, I would rather you have like whole milk or 2% milk than skim milk, because that skim milk is going to raise your blood sugar really quickly, unless you're combining it with meal or something like that. Yogurt, I want you picking a yogurt that has a little bit of fat in it rather than like a fat-free yogurt. Ideally, we're picking one that's higher in protein too, like a Greek yogurt or an ultra-filtered yogurt.
Yeah, like those Yoplait and stuff. Like, yeah, man, they got like 30 grams of sugar and like a little thing. I'm like, oh, man, I'm telling you guys, Greek yogurt now has gotten so much better. Listen, 10 years ago, I know it sucked, and you had it then, and you're like, it's terrible, I won't eat it. But now you get the ones like the Ellen Phipps, the Oikos.
Yeah, those are good.
I don't know how to pronounce any of this stuff. Those are
good.
Like, you know, there's
the Chobani less sugar line. They have about like 10 grams of carbohydrate total. I think it's like 5 grams added sugar. They're really good.
Yeah, the Chobani ones can be hit or miss. There was like one flavor. I was like, cookies and cream. What? How did that get past research and development? Have you tried this?
That's my daughter's favorite.
Terrible. It's how?
She loves
why?
it.
Why?
Probably because it has an Oreo-looking cookie picture on the front.
It's got, yes, I was excited. I bought like 5 of them, and then I was like, whoa, it was like on clearance, and I'm like, now I know why. Like, it's not good. But like the key lime and stuff. So yeah, try one of them. There's like Too Good. I don't really like Too Good. Have you tried Too Good yogurt? It's like 2 grams of sugar, they say, but they still
when they first came out, and I wasn't a huge fan, but I feel like the newer flavors I really like. There's a lemon one that I really like, and they have a seasonal, or they did last year, I should say, a pumpkin one that I really liked. But I also tend to really like anything pumpkin spice, so I know that's a divisive topic for a lot of people.
You gotta try different flavors. Try the different flavors, and try some Greek yogurt that has some protein, because there are good ones. Okay, and not just like Go-Gurt and Yoplait. That sort of stuff. Oh man. So yeah, dairy. I would assume like any fish would probably be beneficial. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
The same. I mean, there's no like separate fish recommendation for people with diabetes, but twice a week, ideally. If you buy frozen seafood, you can buy it in bulk. Looking at less expensive cuts like whitefish is still just as beneficial, but in a different way. You don't always have to get like salmon or tuna or something like that. But definitely trying to get that in there twice a week, as often as you can.
Yeah, let me tell you, I ordered tuna once at a restaurant when I was younger, and they gave me like the sliced tuna, and I was so disappointed because I thought it was in the can, and I was like, because that's all I knew tuna as. It was like mayonnaise. Put it right in the can, eat it out of the can. That's what I knew was tuna. And then they showed with this red thing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't eat that. So, whatever, fish, great. Yeah. I just had some I had smoked salmon on like a whole wheat toast with avocado and everything bagel seasoning and sriracha. That was my breakfast.
I got kind of roasted.
Well, if we learned anything from James Sibley, it's never a bad idea to put pollux in your mouth.
Pollux. Any fish. He was a fan of all the fish. I couldn't get him to pick one I didn't even like. So like also shellfish, good. Shrimp, oysters if someone has really bad taste buds and for some reason they like oysters.
I can't do that.
Yeah. Why?
But
we basically talk about oysters every episode and how much we hate them, but like, they're bad.
And they can potentially kill you if they come from the Gulf. So
if they're raw.
So no, thank you.
Oh boy. And then you said, meats, just pick like a leaner cut of meat, like white meat.
We want to look at lean meats, and across the board, like kind of every category has lean meat options. If you're looking at beef, or lamb is another one we're kind of seeing a lot more of, kind of at least here in the States. And then like chicken and turkey and other forms of poultry, but also pork. You can do pork too, like a pork tenderloin. It's a really great lean cut of meat. It can be pretty inexpensive. You can put it on the grill, throw some sauce on top of it. Super easy. There's you can kind of hit every category. And as with any like food group, there's some less smart choices and some better choices. It's all about balancing those out and kind of figuring out what you like.
Yeah. I mean, it's just about balance. What you got? Any like dessert things for like people with insulin resistance? Any like recommendations?
Yeah, I wrote a whole cookbook about it. So
give us a few ones. Give us a few. I want to know the dessert ones.
If you're making dessert at home, my go-to tip, this is for things like cookies or quick breads or like a brownie or something like that, is my substitution for all-purpose flour. So all-purpose flour does have some protein, has a little bit of fat, and it's higher in carbohydrate. So I will swap that out. Like if it calls for a cup of flour, I'll swap it out for half a cup of almond flour and half a cup of ground up oats. And what we're doing...
Yes, the oat flour.
But oat flour is expensive, so we can just grind oats up.
Oh, yeah.
But then using that, and what it's doing is it's reducing our carbohydrate level a little bit, which we could do that with just almond flour, but I don't think the texture of just straight almond flour is not...
It crumbles apart and it just falls apart. I don't like it.
So what the oat flour serves the purpose of holding it together and still giving us as close a texture to all-purpose flour as we can get. But it decreases the carbohydrate count, it increases fiber, it increases protein, and it increases plant-based fat. And we're kind of getting that added benefit of the soluble fiber that comes along with the oats, and you get really fluffy. I have a ton of recipes on my website, milkandhoneynutrition.com, and my cookbooks that use that strategy. And then the other thing I do...
Yeah, say it again because people probably missed it. Was it Milk and
Honey Nutrition.com.
Milk and Honey Nutrition. Got it.
But I'm like an OG. I was a blogger back in the day before TikTok existed. So all sorts of resources there. But then the other thing I say is like, if you're eating out and you're wanting to have a dessert, so you don't have control over what's going into it. Right. It's what are you eating with it? Because that's kind of what we're left with. Or what are you putting on top of it? If you're going to an ice cream shop, are you adding candy on top of it, or are you putting like nuts or peanut butter or something like that on top of it? Is it
broccoli sprinkles?
Oh God!
Is it coming alongside a meal where you're going to have the benefit of the fiber and the protein from that, or is it being eaten in isolation? Because those are going to be two different experiences. I love a good cheesecake. Everybody always gives me the side eye, but that's one of the more blood sugar friendly options you can pick at a restaurant if you're going to pick something, because you've got the higher protein, higher fat content. That will kind of slow that down. I'm not saying it is blood sugar friendly. It's just one of the more blood sugar friendly ones.
You're out. You're at a restaurant. You have to pick dessert. Your hands are tied with what you can pick. Like the lava cake probably wasn't going to be the best of the options.
Probably not.
So like any other, what about eating out? That's a great one just to kind of bring up. What about like is there like a specific like fast food place that's maybe better? Like is Taco Bell better? It's got beans.
So much better. Like have you looked at their menu lately?
They've got pretty good, like every time I go there, I get the pintos and cheese and I get like a bean burrito and you get lots of fiber and you get protein and fats and all that.
What is this? Wait, I forget what it's called.
Do they have like a diabetic?
Well, they do.
Friendly meal menu?
It's a new section of their menu. I'm looking it up right now because I'm blanking on what it's called. The Cantina menu. So they have
Cantina menu.
They have this
at the Star Wars Cantina.
It's a Cantina chicken bowl, and I got this one time, and I posted about it on Instagram, and everybody, it's got like 11 grams of fiber. 30 something grams of protein, and it's just like a bowl with like beans and rice and meat and all the traditional things. So,
cheese and
but looking for fiber sources where you can when you're eating out, within reason,
which is always tough. That's what they just strip out of everything.
But looking for, and so like if you're going somewhere too that has like fried food, like French fries or chicken fingers or things like that, I always say like pick the fried food that matters the most to you. If you're going to have French fries, maybe pick a grilled item or something like that as your protein. If you're really into chicken fingers, pick something other than fries as the side item.
Who isn't into chicken fingers?
Or like like for me, fortunately, I really enjoy it. Like if I'm gonna get like a burger and fries while I'm out, because this is more on the carbohydrate counting side. If I don't know the bun, I don't know exactly how many carbohydrates in there, I'll do a lettuce wrapped burger and enjoy the heck out of some French fries. And so just kind of like picking what's gonna bring you more joy, and going with that, because we don't need to strip all the joy out of it.
Yeah, I feel because like I go to like there's a place called Flipside and they make like crazy burger and fry concoction stuff. They have like sundaes that are just like, I don't want to know how many calories and sugar are in it because it's got a whole brownie just sticking out of the top of this sundae. And I don't do it very often, but boy howdy do I enjoy it when I go there. So good. Okay. Any other like I'm just kind of wondering, like any other like fast food things to think, any like just thing to think about when you go out to eat? Because I just get this a lot. Like I'm on the road, I don't have a lot of, I don't have time. Just any other like tips or stuff that you like to tell people?
So one of the things too, this is on the kind of like going to those tips, tools, tricks kind of things you can do. Food order. The order you eat your food in, there is merit to that.
I've seen this. I've seen people talk, but they try and tell everybody to do that. I'm like, I don't think everyone needs to do that. Like this could be more for people. If you have a
functioning pancreas that produces insulin that works the way it should, you don't have to do this. If you choose to, that's your own journey that you can go
this
on.
Order.
But looking at eating your fiber sources first, so like a non-starchy vegetable, a side salad, stuff like that first, and then kind of saving the heavy carbohydrate item towards the end of the meal. There is research to support and that you'll see less of a rise in blood sugar, because it makes sense too. If you have that fiber on board and then you kind of add a protein item, you have that protein on board, and then you bring in the starch, it's going to take longer for that starch to get digested.
Okay. I like it. I need to bring up something with you. I just thought of it right now. This is basically the podcast. Liam remembers weird things that he's heard in the past.
Working on renaming now.
I know that's a long title. We'll shorten it down. It's fine. But what I saw this study, and because for most people it's not really that important, but for people with like diabetes, it might be. Because there was like that whole Gary Brecka video where he's like, if you blend a banana, it increases the glycemic index by like 5 times or something like crazy like that. Like if you put it in a smoothie, I was like, this is just nonsense. I think a few of us have done videos on that. But what was really weird, I was looking into it and I learned about this like on a different podcast. They were looking at a study where they blended fruits with seeds. Okay. So like they had like blackberries, I think at the time, and it lowered the glycemic index of the smoothie. Like it actually lowered it when you blended it up, and they thought that's because the blades like liberated some of the fiber in the seeds.
That makes sense.
That's so crazy.
I mean, you look at the way like the fiber in oatmeal kind of does the same thing, as it kind of just ushers the I'm blanking on my words, cholesterol, some of the saturated fat out, so it has less of an impact.
So like, don't fear blended fruits, you would say, or blended, but you could make a smoothie if you have insulin resistance, maybe just add like yogurt. And,
so like don't use fruit juice as your liquid. Pick like, I like to use like almond milk or like some sort of no sugar added milk. So you're adding some protein in, or which I guess you're not doing that with almond milk, but then adding in like a plain yogurt, using a nut butter, like peanut butter or almond butter.
You could do like a protein powder if you wanted to do that. If you're using almond milk, then just add like a protein powder or yogurt.
And a lot of people like the banana base flavor. And so like you really only need like half of a frozen banana to get that flavor. Yeah. And then you can focus on adding other like...
Or, just don't use banana at all.
Shut up, Rob, with your banana hate. We don't need it.
I like a little bit out there, but then you can add in other things like, strawberries or blueberries or grapes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And throw
some chia seeds in there.
Hemp seeds, all the things.
Chia seeds. That's good. I just made flaxseed crackers. You take flax seeds, you soak them in water, then you add pumpkin seeds, and I think it was like sunflower seeds and a bunch of seasoning, and then you spread it on a baking sheet and you just bake it like 300 degrees for like an hour. Yeah, and you make like crackers. They're better than I expected. I had a low bar. I'm not gonna lie, I had a low bar. But like I've bought like the Mary's Gone crackers before when I was deep into my like obsession with healthy eating, and I didn't like them, but I ate them anyway because I had to be the healthiest I could possibly could. It was a terrible time, but I liked these quite a bit more than that. I was like, this is actually, now I didn't bake it long enough, and the center didn't like fully crisp up. So like you gotta do it for a long time, but it's just pretty good. Flax
Have you
seeds.
tried Crunch Master crackers? Have you had those?
I've never even heard
They're
of
like
this.
a seeded cracker. Most grocery stores, at least around here, have them. They're really good.
Crunch Master?
That's the brand. That's really good.
I don't think I've ever heard of Crunch Master. What do you have any other what things in the grocery store do you like for people who are dealing with, insulin resistance? Like you have, like, oh, grab, this is just something I like. I don't care if you have a deal with all of them. It's fine. Just
no.
The Crunch Master and the Fruit Master and the Seed Master and the Lettuce Master.
No, so I actually have, just as a resource if people want it, on milkandhoneynutrition.com, I have a ton of roundup posts, like best packaged snacks, best pastas, best coffee creamers, best tortillas, best breads, things like that, where I kind of go through all of my favorites there. But I do love this gets a lot of hate, but particularly for pasta, I love a good bean-based pasta, particularly chickpea pasta.
Yes. The chickpea, the Banza. What brand do you go with? Because Banza is the only one I found that I actually like.
I always buy Banza. The Barilla chickpea is also decent. The store I shop at doesn't always carry that though. But I tend to do Banza. I do like, what's it called? There's a red lentil one that's really good. And of course I'm blanking on the name of it.
Oh, I think I might know what you're talking about. There's a few different red lentils ones. The red lentil, they're very hit or miss. Yeah. I feel like they can be pretty hit or miss.
But generally speaking, looking for like what have they added to it? So with these pastas we're talking about, they've added beans, which add protein and fiber. When we get over to the bread category, like Dave's Killer Bread I don't get to eat it because I have celiac, but in terms of recommending something, I love the higher fiber and higher protein content. You've got brands like Char in the gluten-free space that have more fiber. You've got Udi's has like an ancient grain one that has more fiber because they've added seeds and things like that.
Oh, with the wraps, I always talk about high fiber wraps. This is the perfect time for it. The Extreme Wellness is my favorite. Those are good.
Keto wraps that aren't actually anything to do with keto. They're just fibrous wraps.
But you can throw that in big letters on the front and, it'll get people's attention.
Wait, so the brand is Extreme what?
Extreme Wellness is the name of it, but not EX, just X.
Okay.
X and then Treem.
Well, it's got to be X-Stream.
X-Treem.
Yeah.
You're not extreme if you're not extreme.
But those are like wheat or whatever. Like they have, I don't know if they have like gluten-free, like, but the high fiber wraps, those things have like 11 grams of fiber per wrap. Mm-hmm. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
There's a lot of, and now compared to like, I think back to like when I was a kid and a teenager, and it was like, it was just disgusting, the food options we had. Or like we were subsisting on like Snackwell cookies, we were told is what breakfast, when it was like the exact opposite of what you wanted to be eating. But
goodness.
There's so many options now, and some of them are incredibly expensive, but some of them are like affordable options, and knowing what to look for and really prioritizing those 3 nutrients that we talked about can have a big impact. And it also, I think, I like to talk about, if it's okay, the emotional side of all of this too, when it comes to like managing diabetes, because stress impacts blood sugars. And if you're constantly stressed about what you're eating, if you're constantly afraid of what you're eating, that has an impact too.
We talk about that a little bit. Definitely definitely comes up. I love that. Is there anything else before we go, just outside of the diet? We talked about like exercise is important. I'm assuming sleep is important. Yeah. Anything was reducing stress. Anything else? I don't know that, you like to tell people outside of the diet.
Yeah. I mean, just making sure you're moving your body. It doesn't have to be some like big lift session in the gym. Though we talked about lean muscle mass being important. But even walking for as little as 2 to 5 minutes after a meal can make a difference. So really just moving your body.
Get your dance on.
Yeah, whatever you gotta do.
Sleep is, I want to be careful how I use this word, but like we want anything that is kind of associated with reducing the amount of stress or inflammation on your body, because the more stress that your body is under, the more likely you are to have increased insulin resistance. So that makes it a little bit harder to manage blood sugar. So getting proper sleep helps with those things. Being mindful of all the stressors in your life, whether it's emotional or social or whatever it is.
Yes.
And if you can reduce that, doing things that can reduce that, taking precautions to help promote a healthy immune system so you're not actually getting physically ill, like those kinds of things. They all play a role in this.
Okay. Gotcha. And you said reducing inflammation, which means just cut out all seed oils and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I thought I was safe from that. With
it's
this
still
crowd.
Around. I think we're on the waning side. Yeah, I feel like we're on the waning side of that, where like seed oils are still like kind of demonized, but not as much as they were like a year ago or like a year and a half ago. Because that guy,
I still get comments all the time, particularly on TikTok, not so much on Instagram, of like.
It's mostly on TikTok. No, TikTok's where it started.
Removing
so
seed
it's
oils
still...
will cure your diabetes.
That video has nothing to do with anything remotely about that, but it's like, oh, but you're killing yourself with these seed oils, or are you going to talk about how toxic those oils are? I'm like, no, I'm not.
Oh my God, I know the seed oil. We find it so. I laugh at this point. At first, I was like, this is ridiculous, and now I'm just like, this. I don't even know what to say because there's been so much, information and research. And if you're still in the anti-seed oil camp, I don't know. Enjoy your testicle supplements or whatever you buy from Paul Saladino. I guess. Like, I don't care.
So he's actually.
Ridiculous.
That's funny. I was blocked by him, and I don't even know why. I can't see his stuff anymore.
Really?
You got blocked by Paul Saladino?
I don't know why. It was like another dietitian shared one of his videos, and I was like, I haven't seen that guy in a long time, and I went to go look at it.
No, this is impressive.
And it was like,
I've never heard of him blocking anyone.
Wait, is this the right guy? Hold on. We're going to figure this out.
Wait, okay. So Paul Saladino is like the carnivore MD guy?
No, that's...
You got blocked by him?
I don't know what I did.
I've never heard of Paul Saladino or Bobby, I guess, for that matter, like blocking anybody.
Actually, Bobby has blocked a bunch of our followers that go to comment on his stuff, but he doesn't block us making the videos.
Interesting. You can't look up Paul Saladino,
Mm-hmm.
like you won't. That's so weird to me.
What I did.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little jealous, actually.
I'm kind of a little jealous. I'm kind of like, I want to get blocked by Paul Saladino.
It had to have happened a couple years ago, because this, where I realized it was about maybe a little over a year ago. So I don't know. Maybe I was
interesting. Maybe he cared at first, like when he started, and he was blocking people, and then he got into his like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna go to the store and yell about canola oil. Yeah, interesting. This is I'm intrigued and surprised, and my gasket is flabbered by all of this. But anyway,
I don't get blocked by anybody.
I get blocked by people. I will comment, like, I won't even comment on a video. I'll just hit favorite, and then the next day it's gone because I'm blocked. Because they know I'm about to. They're like, well, I'm just going to immediately I don't want to deal with that. I'm like, okay, that's, wow. If you were like blocking me immediately, I feel like that really shows you're just talking shit. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. If you're immediately like, oh, I'm just going to block someone that might call me out.
And you're not willing to have a conversation about it at all.
Yeah. Man. But anyway, where can people find more information on seed oils and inflammation? Where can they find more information on insulin resistance and that? You said Milk and Honey, right? Is that the main place?
milkandhoneynutrition.com, and then I'm on all...
Milk and Honey Nutrition.
Man.com, got it.
Milk and Honey Nutrition. Okay, Milk and Honey. Anyway, milkandhoneynutrition.com.
And I'm on all the socials. It's Milk in Honey Nutrition. And then you can find both of my cookbooks, the Easy Diabetes Cookbook, the Easy Diabetes Desserts Cookbook, pretty much anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Target, all the places.
Okay. Well,
thanks for having me.
I think we hit on everything, and we even got to touch on seed oils. I'm happy.
That's great. But Mary, do you see Liam riding a rainbow unicorn?
Of course she does. Of course. That's how everyone sees me.
Maybe. I don't know. What is happening?
Look, I don't know how to answer
this. I don't know where this is going.
I'm
trying to figure out if it's the fever or Liam, because I never know.
Okay. All right. No, it's most things are in your head, Rob. Most things. But every once in a while, you get it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's been
I think
working
I need sleep.
It's been working for you so well, working for you well so far. So just keep rolling with it. It's fine. Anyway,
I'm on it.
Thanks for coming on. And now I have a place where when people ask me, I can just say, go listen to this episode and then go to Milk and Honey.
If you remember the episode number.
I'm not going to remember the episode number, but like I'll point in the same direction. I'll just save it. It's fine. It's fine.
There.
I'll just point people here.
Go there.
Good.
Yeah.
Hey, wasn't that a great time? Listen to the podcast. You were just, I'm assuming you were just listening to In Moderation. So if you go ahead and hit the 5-star button, is that a thing? The like button?
That's a thing.
No.
Yeah.
The like button
5
on YouTube.
stars.
If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, not the dislike button. That's a bad button. The like button. Bad
Don't touch.
Hit all the other buttons. The share. You can go check out
all those things.
Subscribe. Go check out our Patreon. Yeah. We do have a Patreon. It's free to join if you want, or you could give us some money. That'd be really cool, like $1 or $2. It doesn't matter. Whatever you have.
That's where you'll find all the news for this.
We're super appreciative. You can find all sorts of other stuff there. We do giveaways. I think sometimes.
Sometimes.
All that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, peace.